Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. From the latest signings to this year's breakout stars and all the news in between. As always, I am the one and only Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And Alex isn't here for the episode again. He was actually here for the sports podcast with you, Anthony.
Yeah,
but I walked into the office and he was like, "Nah, I ain't doing it today."
Well, he didn't feel well. He had some fillings or whatever, and he had some medication, and it's basically not working out. He's physically here, but also kind of wrecks his, body, and he doesn't feel as great. And that doesn't work when you have to actually talk for this whole kind of thing. Nope. That doesn't help the process. But we're here for Thursday Night Football. We're here for Adrian Peterson. We're here for Wake Forest. We're here for a bunch of different stuff. So we're going to start off with Thursday Night Football. We have the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams, the newly, head coached Los Angeles Rams. They're coached by John Fassell, son of Jim Fassell, the old New York Giants head coach. And now you're going to have a game where the Los Angeles Rams travel to Seattle on a short week. We talked yesterday about Richard Sherman and everything that he talked about Thursday Night Football, the kind of, scorched earth thing. He just went against the NFL again, where basically just like, I don't like Thursday Night Football. I don't like Goodell. I don't like the NFL, what they do. Just basically went on his laundry list of everything. And now you have a case where you have a game with the Rams and Seahawks where it's always a close game, right? That's kind of how that works. Even though the Rams for the last 4 or 5 years have stunk, they, at least in the divisional game against the Rams, or against the Seahawks, the Rams always play well. They won the game earlier this year. They won both games, I believe it was, last year. And it's always one of those things where even though you're like, oh, no, they stink, they're going to lose. Nope, they keep it close. So even though it's a different head coach now, I would think that would be something that probably would happen as far as them keeping it close, if not only for the division rivalry part, the fact that the light schedule, or the light amount of days in between it to where you're not as fresh as you are, so you're not exactly going to be able to get out to like a 28-0 lead. The game will probably be close, but I think at the same time, I think the winner of this game, at least my thinking, would probably be Seattle. What about yourself?
Yeah, I am going to go with Seattle as well. This is a no-brainer for me. It's a Thursday night game.
Right.
It's at Century League Field.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They're entering the game with a new coach. I don't see. It spells trouble for me for the Rams, and the Seahawks' schedule to end the year is pretty favorable. They should be able to finish with, I think, 11 wins because they do have 11 wins because they do have 8 right now because they're 8-4 when they have that one tie. Yeah, they play the Cardinals next week and then the Niners. So they should be – they're in a really good spot right now. They are basically competing for the second seed with the Detroit Lions there. They still have a shot to get that spot.
Right. That one they have a chance, yeah.
Yeah. But as far as this game goes, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. There's the only – main story for this game is Fassell making his coaching debut
right
on the Thursday night, and I think it's the first time a coach will debut on a Thursday night game. That's not the opening kickoff.
Yeah, no, that's the thing because usually what happens is they tend to fire a head coach when the when they have their bye weeks. That way they can have a decent amount of stretch of game or a decent amount of time where you can kind of develop a game plan, get prepared. And it's like, okay, well, you have a little bit more time. You don't have to worry about it so much. With this, and it was like, all right, Jeff Fisher's fired on a Monday, Thursday, all right, football, play kind of thing, And I'm sure, he's been around the team, obviously. Like, Fassell knows the players on the team. He understands how to kind of go about it. It's just one of those things where, you basically went from a special team coordinator to interim head coach. Have fun, But like you said, I think he basically is going to try and instill whatever Jeff Fisher had going and add a little bit of things on his own. And at this point, the players know what to do. The players, especially on that defense, because talk what you will about the offense and how bad the offense is, and it's bad. But at least with the defense, they're top 10 as far as passing goes allowed. So it's going to be hard for Russell Wilson, who had a really, 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 really bad game.
Wow, that's a lot of release.
Well, I kind of had him as a quarterback on my fantasy team. So I understand how bad he would. So I'm very, very aware of that. And now you're going to have a chance where you're going to have to do it again. Also, you're going to have to go against, Aaron Donald and everybody else on the front line, which isn't going to be fun. But with all of that said, I understand that their defense is good. Seattle, even without Earl Thomas and what he brings to that defense, it's one of the things now where I would assume they would win. I just don't think it's going to be a blowout game. Honestly, it's probably going to be one of those 13-10 kind of games. Those really, really kind of terrible because, again, Thursday Night Football is going to be a bad game. It's going to be something where, it's kind of a boring game, but it's a close game, so everyone's like, yeah, maybe there's a chance. And you just basically watch for 3 hours, and you're like, oh, that game was crap. I watched crap for 3 hours.
Yeah. Basically, it's one of those games that's going to possibly be 16-13, and I actually think that actually could be the final score. Mm-hmm. There's two significant things about the Seahawks defense going against the Rams offense. Seattle has 16 turnovers on defense this year. Rams, the offense, and LA has gave up the football 24 times. So, yeah, this matchup doesn't really favor them, but the thing that the Rams have going for them is they do have a pretty respectable front seven. I think they have a respectable front seven. You said
right.
They are top 10 in pass defense. But, when your defense is on the field for so long and your offense just isn't producing numbers, it's hard to win games. And I do expect a bounce-back game from the Seahawks after getting torched by Aaron Rodgers and Lambeau last week. Because there's absolutely no way I can't see this defense getting torched by Jared Goff. Mm-hmm. If Jared Goff actually happens to torch this defense, then that is practically the best game I've ever seen from Jared Goff ever in his young career. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's really not a whole lot to say, honestly. We can break it down from, front sevens to the offensive line on both teams. Basically, the pass of this rivalry here. Because the Rams have played historically well against the Seahawks. But, there's such an imbalance of talent when it comes to both of these teams. And, the Seahawks have more talent on offense, and they have more talent on defense, in my opinion. Even without Earl Thomas, who his presence was really felt last week. Mm-hmm. His presence was really felt. They just couldn't get anything going in the back end of that defense. They were torched literally all game long. But I do think this is a get-right game for the Seattle Seahawks defense and offense as they are kind of in the downstretch here to end the season. And they do have a really easy schedule, in my opinion, for the Seahawks. This is probably one of the last 3 games that they should win. They should win.
So Todd Gurley has been not as productive as you'd hope he'd be this year.
No. He's been probably the most disappointing player in the league for a variety of reasons. He has such a great year in his rookie season. He was a huge disappointment in fantasy.
DeAndre Hopkins would like a word with you, but that's
that
fine.
Too. We can discuss that tomorrow on Fantasy Podcast.
What I'm talking about with Todd Gurley is he, hasn't been that great, and you look at the Seattle Seahawks God, Seattle Seahawks defense. Words. Cool. Anyways, as far as actually rushing yards allowed, they're 13th middle of the pack. But as far as yards per attempt, they're only averaging 3.5 on defense. So they're doing really, really well with that, which is second in the NFL. Now you give them Todd Gurley, someone who's had problems all year. That's probably not going to help the cause, and they're top 10 in passing defense. So, yeah, the offense is not going to be a thing, I don't think. Even with some of that stuff, that Seattle defense, you assume Earl Thomas helped a lot with that, even with the rushing because, you're afraid to pass or you're going to run the ball and then you get stuffed by, the people there. So I'm assuming that maybe the numbers will be a little bit worse than what they've been, but at the same time, outside of the fact that it's a rivalry game, they've played them close, I have no reason to believe that the Seattle Seahawks will not win this game.
Yeah, and it's just I can't pick against the Seahawks in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is a get-right game for that team.
Mm-hmm.
And just something I do want to point out, Todd Gurley, he's having such a bad year.
He is.
He was probably the only running back this year to face the Niners to not have over 100 yards. I feel like he's the only running back.
Ajay did it too.
Ajay.
I know that being a Dolphins fan.
Ajay. That was actually a close game for the Niners. But, I just wanted to point that out there because, the Rams have been really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, we're going to take our first break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Adrian Peterson.
Yep.
Apparently, he's coming back.
Cyborg.
Yeah, he's the freak. He's just a freak in nature.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Adrian Peterson returning to the Vikings practice field when we come back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Well, it looks like we're going to have the return of Adrian Peterson this season. Can you believe that, Anthony? It looks like we're going to get to see Adrian Peterson back on the field this season. And he did suffer a knee injury earlier this year. I think it was week 2 or week 3 against the Green Bay Packers. And he's back on the practice field.
Yep.
The Vikings have designated for the injury reserve designated to return, which gives them 21 days. Gives the team 21 days to decide if they want to bring him back to the active roster. The fact that he's made that much progress says a lot. And he's aiming to return next week for the Christmas Eve game.
Mm-hmm.
Next Sunday.
Yeah.
So he's not playing this week. So we can obviously rule that out.
Sure.
But coming back like week 16 in a year where you thought you were going to miss the rest of the season, that is incredible. That is incredible. But you know what? I'm not shocked. We've seen that before when Adrian Peterson tore ACL, and the next year after went bonkers on all over the field.
Yeah, no, like you said, like nothing he does really is going to surprise me that much. I mean, I understand that when you have the injury that he had, most people are going to be out for the rest of the year, and that's fine, and that's great, and that's fantastic, and I understand that's how most people's bodies work. You said with the ACL, right? He, basically shredded his knee, came back the next year, probably had the greatest running back season I've ever seen in my life. It didn't matter. Like, he's just one of those guys that, like, his body is such, like, a freak of nature. Like, that dude was a freak of nature when he was a freshman in Oklahoma. Like, he legitimately should have won the Heisman Trophy when he was a freshman at Oklahoma, and the only reason he didn't was because at that time freshmen didn't win the Heisman Trophy now. Like, it's kind of been changed recently, but, like, it's one of those things where, like, he was like what's his name? The dude in LSU.
Right now?
Yeah.
Leonard
Fournette.
Yeah,
he was one of those kind of like freaks of nature where it's one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, you could go to the NFL. Like, even though I understand they have the rule for the NFL where you have to be 3 years, basically because if you're too small, it's kind of unfair to get hit that many times in a horrible fashion. Like, I get the rule with that, but he was one of those dudes that straight out of high school was just like, oh yeah, no, you could go to the NFL right now if you wanted to. And since he's been in the NFL, I mean, he's one of the best running backs in the last 20 or 30 years. Like, say, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, whatever. Like, he's probably in like the top 10, if you want to do that, of just like running backs of all time, just because the numbers that he's put up, the longevity that he's having, because he's 30 years old. Like, it's not the thing where he's like 25 and it's like, oh yeah, he can bounce back. No, he's 30 and still doing stuff like that, which I understand isn't that much different. But in the NFL, when you're a running back, basically when you hit that 30-year-old mark, it's when everything kind of goes downhill. And I guess, to be fair, he got injured this year again, so it's one of those things where your body still breaks down, but he still has that really quick quick recovery time where he's kind of come back. And there's no guarantee that when he comes back he's going to be 2,000-yard Adrian Peterson kind of guy. Like, he's not going to be that guy that's rushing for 150 yards a game. But the fact that he's coming back and the fact that they need him back, because one of those things is like, oh, well, maybe with him gone now they can kind of spread the ball around and make it a little bit of a equal thing. No, they stink. No, McKinnon, running back, he stinks. Nothing against him. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but stinks. And Bradford's basically become Sam Bradford again. So you basically have a scenario now where you need Adrian Peterson to come back, because with all of that being said about how the team isn't as good as you'd hope they would be, they're still contending, right? They're still in at least contention enough to where if they win the next 3 games and the Lions lose out, playoffs. So they at least have a legitimate shot of that, which is why Adrian Peterson's coming back when he is.
Yeah, and the Vikings are going to need a lot of help.
Sure.
To get into the playoffs. They're behind Washington and Tampa Bay for the 6th and final spots. You can't really roll out a division title right now because they're still in it. But don't forget, the Packers look like they're getting hot at the right time, so they have to worry about them. Adrian Peterson coming back Christmas Eve against the Green Bay Packers is huge.
Yep.
It is going to be at Lambeau. So I don't really expect Adrian Peterson to, I think he's going to slowly they're going to try to slowly get him into the game. But I wouldn't be surprised if AP carries the rock like 30 times in that game. Like, he's just that type of player.
Yep.
Because the Vikings running backs, the backfield, they probably have one of the worst running back situations in all of football. They just can't run the ball at all. They can't.
Right.
So the fact that Adrian Peterson, and I know that Adrian Peterson wasn't phenomenal in his first 2 games. He only had 50 yards on 31 carries. He's still Adrian Peterson. You still got to worry about him. Maybe he's just you got to expect the unexpected from him, honestly. But as of right now, every game for the Vikings is a must-win game. They're playing the Colts, the Packers, and the Bears. I actually do think the Colts and Bears game are kind of winnable right now because, the Colts, they have a great offense, but that defense, just really is terrible.
Right.
The Packers game, though, is going to be the biggest game. If they can't win that game when Adrian Peterson comes back, I think pretty much the season's over. So if Minnesota were to lose on Sunday against the Colts, and then they were to lose against the Packers, do you think Adrian Peterson just sits out the last final game? I think he does.
No, I think he plays the final game just because at that point he's already played the 2 games. Like he was saying before, he didn't want to come back unless the team was in it, but that means to start coming back. Like that's if the team was out of it now, he wouldn't come back. But since they're in it now, but if you're already playing the first 2 games and you don't come back after that, then you're quitting on the team kind of thing, right? Like the other way. At least it's one of those things if you can kind of say, like, oh, I'm injured or whatever, because you never actually came back and you can't prove whether or not you're healthy or not. I mean, at this point, he's basically saying, like, yo, I'm coming back on December 24th. I'm coming back on Christmas Eve. And after that, if he doesn't play, assuming he's not injured again, assuming he's healthy enough to play, I think he plays in that final game just to kind of get some reps under his belt. So that way the next year he can come back and, be fully healthy and everything else like that. I don't think he sits out once he already starts playing. If he never played, then I don't think he would. But since he's already trying to do this and playing in a game, I think he plays in the second game or in the last game.
Okay. So what does this mean for the Vikings' playoff chances? I still think they're kind of a long shot in the playoffs. If I had a choice for the 6th and final spot, because I actually do think the Giants are going to win that 5th spot. Mm-hmm. They look really good. They're the only team to beat the Cowboys, and they beat them twice.
Right.
So I do think they are a tough matchup for the Cowboys in the playoffs. But for the 6th and final spot, Tampa Bay, they look really good. Yep. Defense is a whole lot better.
Right.
Jameis Winston's playing a whole lot better.
Yes.
And, the Redskins, Kirk Cousins and that offense looks good.
Yes.
The defense could use a little work, but offense does look good. And then the Vikings, the only thing they have going for them was the defense.
Right.
You need a defense to win. And if Adrian Peterson comes back fully healthy, I do think maybe they can be a really good team in January, because if you have a good defense and you have a really good running game, that's January/playoff football.
Right.
So I do think if they, I just can't see them make the playoffs, because you got the Packers. I do think the Packers look like they're on their way of getting hot at the right time.
Right.
Making that run. It's just tough for me to put the Vikings in there. I just think Tampa Bay, Washington, and Green Bay are just better teams than them.
Sure, yeah. This at least gives them a chance, right? This at least gives the Vikings, which you would assume is a chance, right? Because you give them back somebody who, if nothing else, is a name, right? You know who Adrian Peterson is. You know how good he can be, because that one year, even though it was back in 2012 when he was a freak show and going for 2,000 yards, he was the reason why they made the playoffs, right? It was nothing else, really. It was him. He was the guy. I think it was Matt Castle was the quarterback at that time.
I think it was Christian Ponder.
Was it Ponder? Yeah, it might have been Ponder. He might have been there. And that team was really, 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 really bad outside of him, because the quarterback wasn't good. The wide receivers were okay. And it was basically him.
That defense wasn't even there.
It wasn't what it was now, no. And it was one of those things where he basically kind of was like, okay, cool, I need to get 2,000 yards for us to make the playoffs. Cool, I got it. And did everything he could to get him into the playoffs. And then, they didn't really do anything once they got into the playoffs, but, to no fault of his own.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the Vikings' playoff chances are when Adrian Peterson does come back. And it's going to be really exciting to see Adrian Peterson come back. He's just he's a very exciting player, one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah, he's my favorite running back in the game. Well, now I guess Elliott might actually be. But, when I was watching Peterson, he was my favorite, everything off the field aside or whatever. Him and what he was like, I've loved him ever since he was a freshman at Oklahoma.
Yeah, me too.
I really enjoyed watching him play. So, it's going to be fun to at least get him back and have some, hopefully not just nostalgia moments where it's like, oh, there he is. And then he's like, oh, he's not the same. Hopefully he can actually do some things or whatever. So it's like, oh, yeah, there he is. There's Adrian Peterson. All right, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, if the Vikings if they get AP back to full strength to, kind of owed AP, before the injury, then that is a huge boost. But we're going to take our last break here, and when we come back, we're going to get to the final drive. We got a couple of stories we want to talk about that we kind of missed on throughout the week. And we'll be back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And It is time for the final drive, where we discuss the news, that happened throughout the week that we just missed.
Right.
Because we can't really fit everything into one show. These are stories that have slipped through the cracks, so to speak, that, we couldn't really find a lot of time to do a segment on it. But we got some really great topics to talk about today. We're going to talk about actually, I'm just going to surprise y'all. So, Anthony, we have a huge story, involving Wake Forest this past week. And, you wanted to talk about it today on this segment in the show.
So, basically, what happened with Wake Forest is basically they had a guy who used to be a player and then was a coach and then basically got reassigned, fired, whatever you want to call it, and got in the radio booth. And, Tommy Elrod got accused and basically convicted, not in the law sense, but in this, formal sense, just basically of taking information about Wake Forest, about their football team, and giving it to other players, other coaches and other universities, which I've never actually heard anybody actually do something like that. I've never seen it to where basically you're a spy. In the most literal sense of the word, you are like a double agent spy doing stuff for both teams, right? And I don't really understand why you would do something like that, right? I get that you're mad that you were a player, then a coach, then you basically got reassigned to just doing radio stuff like that, which is stuff that we do who never played. I get that stuff like that, and that's fine. You're mad, but why don't you just leave? Why are you going to basically sabotage a football program that you legitimately care about? I'm guessing because you were a coach and a player, and now you're doing something like this. And the best part of it all, the best part of everything is, do you know the school that is the number one school, I guess, that he's accused of giving it to, or the one that's basically getting the most traction about? You know the school?
No, but I can name a few that have been involved. I know Louisville.
There it is.
Is Louisville?
That's the one.
Yeah,
Louisville's the one.
Louisville has been in the top teams in the investigation here.
Now, do you know why I kind of go to the ding, ding, ding thing with Louisville? Do you know why I'm doing that?
Why?
My boy, Petrino.
Bobby Petrino.
Bobby Petrino, second greatest press conference of all time, because nothing will ever top the Al Davis press conference once Lane Kiffin got fired. That is the greatest press conference of all time.
I might watch that on YouTube later.
It's 49 minutes. It's very long. Oh my God, it's the greatest thing of all time. He basically gets so mad at Lane Kiffin, and he's just I fired him for cause. He done it, just this whole rant. It's insane madman rant. Oh, I miss Al Davis so much. And then you get the other thing with Bobby Petrino, where he's in neck brace trying to cook up them lies, saying he didn't have anything to do with the woman that's on the back of his motorcycle that's not his wife. And now that you have the sense of where this whole thing with Wake Forest, and it's oh yeah, because Bobby Petrino, because you feel like Bobby Petrino would just do the thing where it's just no, let's hear what he has to say. No, let's see what he got. He's making good ideas. Let's hear him out. Kind of thing like that. Who knows if it actually went anywhere past just giving them information. If they kind of looked at it and was yeah, whatever, and threw it away. But with Petrino, we get to make jokes. Because that's the thing with Petrino. He's a really good coach. He's a really good recruiter. Also, we get to make jokes. Because he had the neck brace press conference. They're these jokes.
Yeah.
But,
go on.
No, it is. It's one of those things that, obviously, with Wake Forest, the man got fired. Elrod got fired, which understandably so. If you can, in any way, shape, or form, prove the fact that he basically was a double agent spy, fire that man. But now the thing with Wake Forest is, you kind of got this, not stigma, because it's not going to stick, but it's one of those things that's kind of a laughing thing. It's oh, cool, yeah, you guys can't keep your stuff in-house. But now going forward, the guy, he's not going to be able to work in any kind of football realm because no one's going to trust him. And this whole situation just seems kind of weird.
Yeah, he's going to have a tough time. Elrod's going to have a tough time to find another coaching job, I believe. Are you okay, Anthony?
Yeah, sorry, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Well, the thing of the connection between Louisville and Wake Forest also has another connection there. Offensive coordinator in Louisville, Lonnie Galloway. Mm-hmm. He did say he received a few plays from Elrod. Thing about Galloway and Elrod is they've known each other since 2007.
Sure.
And they worked together on the football staff in Wake Forest.
Right.
from 2011 2012. So they do have a relationship there. But this is probably one of a very abnormal scandal I've heard in a long time. In regarding college football. And
that's the thing. He talks about how they know each other since 2007, right? It's one of those things of just like, I mean, Elrod wasn't going around just like some old-timey 1920s kind of newspaper, like, extra, read all that. Like, he's not doing that, like, trying to, like, be a scalper at a game, like, I got plays, give me some plays. Like, he's not doing that. Like, he's obviously going to people who he's known for a while, like someone who he feels like he can trust, and just going to people and just be like, look, I got these if you want them, kind of thing like that, right? He's not doing, something where it's just out of the blue and just meeting some guy in, middle of, like, some deep situation over with, like, Nixon, where he's just, like, in a trench coat, like, no, he's going to a friend or whatever else like that. So that's where the connection with Louisville goes.
Yeah, moving on to the final drive here. Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like the San Diego Chargers could possibly become the L.A. Chargers.
Yep.
The Chargers owner, Dean Spanos, he has been toying with the idea of moving to L.A. for a little bit while now. But, the NFL owners have pretty much said it's okay, the stadium deal, to go through in L.A.
Right.
Chargers have to decide after this season to go through with it. So the fact that L.A. is they already have the Rams.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to even like the Chargers?
I think they like the Chargers more.
No, I think they will too.
Because the Rams, we've seen, they stink. Like, they gave them the Rams, they're like, yeah, we have a team. Oh, this team stinks. And at least with the Chargers, yeah, they're below 500 as well, but they're at least, like, fun to watch. And Phillip Rivers is at least someone who you know and, someone who's really super talented. So I think they'll enjoy them if they get them a lot more. Yeah,
and then the NFL owners also unanimously, I can't even say that word, they all approved a final tenant lease contract between the Chargers and the Rams on Wednesday. It would have so pretty much the Chargers and Rams would be sharing the stadium until, Chargers can get their own deal. Or they might actually share the same stadium in Inglewood when it's all built and done. Who would have thought, we would have had two teams in L.A.
Well, because he came in this year with the Chargers, because I believe this was the last year they had on the lease for San Diego for Qualcomm.
Yeah, they did. It was the final year.
And, you knew it was like a lame duck situation, right? Because the team basically didn't make any qualms about it. Like, at least with the Raiders and the whole Vegas or L.A. or Oakland thing, at least there's a shot of them staying in Oakland. And also you have the situation where if a second team goes to Los Angeles, they're not going to put a third team. No. Right? Like, L.A. is a giant market, but it's also not big enough to hold 3 football teams. Like, it's barely going to be enough to hold 2 football teams.
Barely enough to even hold 1.
And, well, they don't want the 1. And so with the Raiders, their only other option is to go to New York, to Las Vegas. But, they might still stay in Oakland, to where the Chargers, it was basically just like, yeah, they're going to go to Los Angeles, and you kind of knew that from the jump. And, there's a chance or whatever, because the city council is basically trying to offer them thing where they have a lease of like $1 million a year for Spanos for the next 99 years. But it's just one of those things where they're trying to stay in San Diego, and they're trying to throwing whatever sticks to the wall and seeing if anything works, but odds are they're going to go to San Diego. They're going to go from San Diego to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. There's just no reason for me to believe that it's not going to happen.
The funny part's going to come when, because you have to figure out which team is the Jets, right? What I mean by that,
I know what you mean by that.
What I mean by that is, like, you have the Jets and Giants in New York, technically New Jersey, and the Giants are always that team that's kind of the how can I put this? The Giants are the brother who went to college, got a degree, has a good paying job, and we all love. The Jets are Van Wilder.
Hey, what's wrong with Van Wilder?
I love Van Wilder. It's a great
too.
movie.
Yeah.
Also, if you're going to have 2 kids, probably not the best kid, right? You want the kid that goes to college and everything's nice and everything's buttoned up suit, whatever else like that. The Jets are Van Wilder, and sometimes it works for them and sometimes it doesn't. So which of these 2 teams between the Rams and the Chargers becomes the Van Wilder of Los Angeles? Because when you have 2 teams, one of them is going to be the kind of team that's just like, oh, that's
we kind of see it in LA. We kind of see it with their other sports leagues, like in NBA.
Right.
You can honestly say the Lakers are Van Wilder right now.
Right now they're Van Wilder.
And,
the Clippers were Van Wilder for decades.
They were. And then, the Clippers are pretty much the Sun.
They're the button up. They're the button up suit.
They
Sun
are
right
They are the professional. In baseball, the Dodgers are the professional, and the Angels right now are Van Wilder.
Yes.
Even in hockey, they have that. The Kings, the L.A. Kings, they've had a couple of Stanley Cups. They had a Stanley Cup win a couple years ago, so I think they're probably the professional.
Yep.
The Ducks,
Van Wilder,
are Van Wilder.
Right, and even other things like in New York, like the Knicks and the Nets. Now, sometimes both of them are Van Wilder. A few years back.
I think they're Van Wilder right now.
Both of them are Van Wilder. But the Knicks, at least, they finally graduated from college, and now they're starting to get a good paying job with the Knicks, to where the Nets, no, they're just face down after a party on the couch. That's what the Nets are right now. But, yeah, I want to see what team becomes the, they stink. Because basically what happens is you just do things where, you do things for publicity, right? You do it for the tabloids. You do it, for the back page kind of thing, else like that, because that happens in New York, and that'll happen in Los Angeles too, because TMZ is very much a thing, and TMZ Sports is definitely very much a thing. So it's going to be fun to see what happens with that.
Okay, if you want my opinion, who's going to be Van Wilder?
Oh, it's going to be the Rams.
It's going to be the Rams.
There's
no question. No question. Unless they get Jim Harbaugh, which is not going to happen.
Hold on, real quick with Harbaugh. Really quick. Harbaugh's an insane person.
Okay.
He's an insane. No. I love Jim Harbaugh so much because I love the Mad Men head coaches. I love chaos. I love anarchy. I love all that stuff like that. He said something that when I heard it, I'm just like, wait, hold on. What? Because when they talked about him possibly going to the Los Angeles Rams, he said they are lies. I can't remember the exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing. Lies concocted by our enemies. Like he's a general in war. No, he is a football coach, and he's basically making it's some kind of thing where it's just our enemies are trying to just, coordinate against us. No, it's probably your agent who wants you to get more money because that's how this works. Because all of a sudden it's no, I don't want to leave. Oh, you want to give me another $500,000? Sure, kind of thing, right? And then also he started using Jive Turkey, which no one says. And I haven't heard that since the movie Airplane. It's great. It's fantastic. He's an insane person.
Yeah.
And I wish he was in the NFL again, but I don't want him to be on the Rams because that's just going to make me sad. I want him to be on a good team that would stay in the NFL.
I want him to go with the Niners, but it's not going to happen.
No,
it's not going to happen.
You poor thing.
It's not going to happen.
You had such a good time going. Everything was great.
Everything
you had Patrick Willis.
We were the professional brother.
You were the professional. Yeah. Okay. So it's the Bay Area, right? The Bay Area. About 4 years ago, you guys were the nice buttoned-up professional son.
Yes.
And the Raiders were the Van Wilder. Now,
and it made more sense.
Now it switched.
Yeah.
Now it switched.
Yeah, it's funny how times have changed.
All right, so
but anyways, we got another fun story to talk about. We got one more. We originally were going to talk about two, but the fact that we actually like this story so much, we had to add it. The NFL.
Yes.
They're adding skill challenges back. It's back to the Pro Bowl.
I like that. Yes. I like it. It's still a thing I don't know, if you see on YouTube, I'm pretty sure they have a bunch of videos on YouTube, but it's still the things where they have the NFL skills competition.
Yeah, I know the NFL YouTube page actually uploaded a bunch of old skills competition videos the last couple of days. So they have those online now.
Right.
Because they're bringing them back.
Yeah, it's something where, you would see Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, Peyton Manning, people like that back in the early 2000s. Basically, you had the moving target where you had the football, you had the blue chalk or whatever that stuff was, blue paint or whatever, on the football, and you test for accuracy, distance, stuff like that. And it was always a really fun thing, and then they took it away. I don't know if they were afraid that the quarterbacks were going to throw their arms out or whatever else like that. But they have all these things that they're going to add to the NFL as far as the skills competition goes. You're going to have the thing like I talked about where you're going to have the accuracy and everything like that. You're going to have the wide receivers basically doing the best hands. You're going to have a relay challenge. You're going to have the dodgeball competition where they'll just play a giant game of dodgeball, which I love all of them. This is all going to be great, and I'm very excited for this whenever they decide to finally do this on, January 29th, 2017.
Yeah, and the dodgeball.
Dodgeball's going to be great.
It's going to be really great. Can you imagine?
Or here's the thing.
Can you imagine how this dodgeball is going to
here's what I want. Here's what I want. I don't know if you saw recently, Aqib Talib got into a nice little thing
I did.
with Harry Douglas, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Harry Douglas isn't a Pro Bowler. That's fine. Don't care. Don't worry about that. But I want to see Aqib Talib on one end because I want to be offense-defense. That's what I want it to be. I want Aqib Talib on one end, and I want Steve Smith on the other end. Yes.
Oh man.
They are both insane people too.
They're both in the AFC though. I think that
I don't care. Offense defense. It's offense defense. Offense gets one thing, defense gets the other one. Let's go. Let's have fun.
I think the competition for dodgeball. I think it's NFC versus AFC. But man, that would be so great.
But the Pro Bowl also did the thing recently where they just draft the people. Right? They have like Jerry Rice and Michael Irvin pick players, so it's not that. So it could be just you pick the players and everything else like that. But either way, it's like I want to keep Talib getting mad. I want Steve Smith getting mad. I wish Percy Harvin was still playing at a high level. That would be so much fun, too. Percy Harvin's a madman, too. He basically fought the wide receivers coach instead of not running laps.
Can you imagine if
they didn't run laps?
Can you imagine if I got something that's very hypothetical here.
Let's go.
Okay. You love Jim Harbaugh.
I do.
He's an insane person.
He is.
Can you imagine if he was still in the NFL?
He still feels like he can play in the NFL.
He probably still can.
Oh, he'd be the best if he was a head coach.
Just
yelling at Steve Smith, throw!
Can you imagine if he was the head coach or was involved in the dodgeball competition in Pro Bowl? Oh, my gosh. Like,
Can we make that happen?
Must see TV.
Can we make that happen?
Let's make it. We got to start like a petition or something. Like, can we get Jim Harbaugh to the dodgeball competition?
Like, you don't even have to be in the NFL. That's fine. Like,
No.
it can be like an old timers game where you just kind of like interject you in the actual players that are playing right now.
Him versus Pete Carroll. Carroll, can you imagine if it would have been Jim Schwartz versus Jim Harbaugh?
Right. Yeah. Because that's the thing with that. Yeah.
Oh man.
No. Like I just like all the people. Like I basically want everyone who's like a really good player, but also just a little insane, which basically means someone who's like 5'10" or below. Because from what you can probably imagine, if you're under 5'10" and you got to the NFL, you had to go through a lot of stuff to do that. You're not the most measured and leveled and calm person in the world. Like, you kind of had to go through some stuff because no one believed in you, which is what Steve Smith did, which is what Aqib Talib did, which is what, also Pac-Man.
Pac-Man. Yes.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
And you know what? I want to see.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I want to see Adam Jones.
Yes.
And Terrell Pryor.
Yes.
Because he's seen. Adam Jones has some recent comments about Terrell Pryor, basically calling him trash.
Also, I forgot about somebody who's on my team, Ndamukong Suh.
Oh.
Yes.
It's
gonna be good.
Wow, man, this is gonna be.
It's gonna be so much fun. Because I'm trying to think of players that actually can make it to the Pro Bowl. Right, because like Percy Harvin was one of those dudes, but he played like in like a couple games this year, and he stinks, and he's not going to make it to the Pro Bowl. But I want to think of like everybody else that has a shot. Like I can't think of any like quarterbacks that are going to do this. I don't think they're going to. I think it's basically just going to be defensive linemen, cornerbacks,
offensive linemen,
tight ends, wide receivers. Oh, Gronk would have been so much fun.
Oh my gosh, Gronk would have been so fun in this. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm sad.
By the way, did you? Speaking of Gronk,
yeah.
Was it John Cena hosted Saturday Night Live this past weekend?
Yeah.
And there was a skit where it was kind of like a game show skit. I think it was called "Where's Your Money Go" or something like that. It's basically the whole premise of the skit.
Right.
Was it was athletes answering questions like kind of like in the Jeopardy format about what to do in the situations with your money.
Right.
And of course they got Kenan Thompson playing Charles Barkley as the host.
Yeah.
Then you had John Cena as Rob Gronkowski.
Sure.
Really good. I couldn't tell who was playing Conor McGregor. I couldn't tell. I didn't know if it was Mikey Day or I might have been. I couldn't tell. But it was pretty good. And then Bobby Moynihan played John Daly, the golfer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny, but the way that John Cena portrayed Gronkowski is the way that I kind of see him too.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh man, you got to go back and watch it, Anthony, or you listeners out there. I think it's a pretty good impression of him. Yeah, I just want to point that out there.
Yeah, oh my God, Gronkowski could have been the best. Like, it's just like I want. Oh, also, no, because he'll make it. Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce will be great with this thing because Travis Kelce is basically a mini Gronk. Yeah, no, I love so much about this pro. Like, Forget about the skills competition because that's just going to be kind of a fun thing to YouTube and stuff like that and see how accurate some of the people are, like Drew Brees and stuff like that. And that's great, and that's fine. And wide receivers with the hands, that's great. Like, we pretty much outlawed dodgeball for like elementary school, right? Because basically you don't want dodgeballs to be thrown in little kids' face, which fine, I get that. These are adults. These are adults with rage problems.
He's a grown man.
These are grown men with rage problems. Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Man, you know what? I kind of like this idea that the NFL has implemented. To me, we're talking about the how excited we are for a Pro Bowl competition.
Imagine how much exciting this would have been if they made this 5 years ago, and a tight end that is no longer in the NFL. They used to play for the New England Patriots.
Oh, it's not
playing in this game. I'm not talking about his name. I'm just saying.
And it's not Gronk, people.
It's not Gronkowski. You know, imagine if he was playing and his rage problems that are kind of well documented at this point, allegedly. Well, not even allegedly. The dude's in prison. But, yeah.
Yeah, he's playing with Paul Crew there.
Yes, longest yard style.
Yes, he's playing with Paul Crew there for the meme machines.
Yeah. All
right. Well, that concludes our show here. We'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And you can come back and join us tomorrow. We're going to be discussing the Thursday night football game and as well as some college football games. We got some bowl games coming up this weekend. So Ben will be back here. He will be back, as always, on Friday. And Anthony, are you going to be back for the show tomorrow?
No, I'm going to be out of town. Sorry. I have the Christmas stuff with the family, so I'm going to be out with that.
And then, of course, so it's just going to be me and Ben, people. Me and Ben. Or Ben and I should say, the correct way to say it.
Right.
But, yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in and see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.